The topic is the Somalia pirate crises. And of course, we have with us to continue our conversation dealing with this crisis in a real sense in Somalia, Professor Robert Pickard from Tennessee State University, as well as Middle Tennessee State University. And of course, Professor Pickard, let us pick up where we left off. I think we went into that first segment. We stayed too long in that segment, and so let's sort of pick up at where we left off. To have you to talk about Somalia and some of the crises that you see there.
Okay, now first of all, I wrote an article which was published this past Tuesday, the 12th, on Somalia, and really about what was called the axis of upheaval. The historian Neil Ferguson, who I'm sure you're familiar with, wrote a recent article in Foreign Policy magazine entitled Axis of Upheaval, in which he says that 3 factors can predict lethal organized violence. First of all, ethnic disintegration, economic volatility, and thirdly, empires in decline. When structures of imperial rule has crumbled, battles for power surely are most bloody. He mentioned several countries there. He talked about Russia might be joining that list. The Congo, of course, is very much, the Congo for 12 years has been torn apart in rebellion. You've had Rwanda, of course, at one time. I think Rwanda's in good shape now. You've got Mexico, our nearest neighbor, thanks to the laxity of our gun laws in this country, which is an outrage. They are becoming that way with the narco problem, the narco terrorism, as we're talking about, or the gangs. Somalia has, since 1990, basically been in anarchy. Of course, we had soldiers there for a short time, and we had to leave. And the problem with the pirates is nothing new. They've been poaching their neighbor Kenya's wildlife for a long time. As you know, rhino horn is sold as an aphrodisiac in Asian countries. And they have also become a training ground for groups like Al-Qaeda and others that other terrorist groups, as well as criminal organizations. And the pirate thing is very easy for them. It's just like off our coast in the early 17th century, late 17th, early 18th century, as I'm sure you've taught in class. It was very easy for pirates to stop ships because they wouldn't put up any fight. Nobody's going to fight for somebody else's property, and that's the same thing happening here. And they've got a million-mile coast there along through the Gulf of Aden. This is one of the most strategic and important shipping areas in the world. Now, the reason I say that this has been coming on for a long time is I could see it when I was there in the early 80s. Somalia has 5 points. If you refer to the Somalia flag, there are 5 points on the star on the flag. The star is right in the middle of the flag. The 5 points stand for 2 parts of the country of Somalia proper. One is northern part, which was once a British colony. The southern part, which is Italian. It also includes Djibouti, which is north of Somalia, an independent country, which is Somali, but French Somaliland. You have a large part of Ethiopia there called the Ogaden, which are ethnic Somali, and part of Kenya, which is Somali. And so all of these places Somalia claims. Now, the Organization of African Unity, of course, has been against any kind of changing borders because, quite frankly, as I'm sure you know, the Europeans drew the borders of the African countries to suit their own purposely, very arbitrarily and capriciously. And so that's why there's so much ethnic and tribal conflict there, and also why, you know, for a lot of other things, there's warfare between tribes, there's tremendous corruption. Anytime any group gets in, they're going to, you know, particularly in countries that have oil like Angola, they're going to try to take this. Now, what happened with Somalia in 1976, of course, Haile Selassie, who ruled the country very benevolently for many years, was overthrown by a new group led by a man named Mengistu. And Haile Selassie had always left the Ogaden alone. They didn't have any interest in being part of Somalia, neither really did Djibouti or parts of Kenya. But they began oppressing and trying to remove the Somali people from their land. It's possibly because of the mineral wealth there. Nobody is really sure, but thousands of refugees began leaving, obviously the Ethiopians, if they caught these people trying to leave, they would chop off their hands.
Okay.
So I saw a lot of people without hands.
In your own experiences?
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Now, when they got into Somalia, they were the same ethnic group, the same tribe, as a matter of fact, as the